Hello everyone, welcome back to part 2 of Losing My Ranking Every Thomas and Friends episode. We're on the second half of the model era now. We're watching season 7 through 12. You are now going to hear all my thoughts on those seasons. And by the way, make sure to watch the first 6 seasons review. That's going to be very important, and I'm probably going to reference some things because I recorded this as if this was all going to be one big video. Anyway, no more dilly-dallying. Let's just get into the rankings, starting with...
I can't believe it's taken us 157 episodes, but Emily finally exists. And, it's an okay episode. Emily gets confused about her coaches and takes Thomas's instead, and then she has to save Oliver. It's not a bad episode. I'd view it on the same way I view something like Harvey to the Rescue. It's fine, it has a decent moral, but it doesn't do much to win me over with the character. Still, it's okay, I want to make that clear.
Man, that footage from season 5 is out of place. On Toby's line, Percy finds out the tracks are very wobbly and tries to warn people. However, nobody really ends up listening to him. But then Thomas gets into a crash, and thankfully, Percy saves him. This is a really good one here. I can relate to Percy on this situation, and it really shows how responsible and resourceful Percy has been throughout these 7 seasons. It's a really good episode. I like this one a lot. It's a shame. I never hear this one talked about much. A new traction engine named Fergus arrives on the island of Sodor to work at the quarry. Bill and Ben don't really like him because he's all about rules. They try to play a trick on them, but end up nearly getting into a landslide. Thankfully, Fergus comes in to save the day, though unfortunately his TV career is ruined forever. It's an okay episode here. Fergus is admittedly far from my favorite character, but I do like him in this episode as being over the top about rules, and Bill and Ben being over the top about chaos, and that they need to learn to work together. Not a bad one. There's a crack in the old bridge, and Skarloey has a near accident. However, now he doesn't want to go and do his work like the little baby he is in this episode. Yeah, not a contrarian take. This episode's not that good. I'll at least give it this. I do like the part where he immediately saves Rheneas when he realizes he's in danger, but still, why is Skarloey the main character? Pretty poor episode.
Edward wants to take a brass band out, but Cranky hits him and he's damaged. Bertie has to take him the next day, but then he gets stuck and Edward has to save him. It's fine. I like the part with Cranky, but other than that, this is pretty forgettable.
Henry is feeling sick, so instead of sympathizing with him, Thomas and Percy mess with him and give him even more work to do when he's clearly too ill to do it. Why are Thomas and Percy so mean? Yeah, they're playful characters, but I think this is a little too far even for them. Everyone just beat down on Henry in this episode. I really feel bad for him. Also, weird season 4 stock footage. Not a very good episode at all, I'm gonna be real. Okay, seriously, what's going on with the stock footage here? This is getting a little ridiculous. James will not stop boasting about all the cool jobs he's been getting, and it's really starting to get to Gordon, so he tricks him into taking the Queen of Sodor without him realizing it's a dirty barge, which he tries to avoid being dirty all day, and this is actually a really funny episode here. I love all of James's attempts to stay away from the dirtiness, and then Percy gets him dirty at the end. Classic. Probably my favorite episode so far.
Readier than ever. I'm such a splendid engine.
A sequel episode to Peter, Sam, and the Refreshment Lady. Let's see how this one goes. Peter Sam is tasked with trying to find an area for the Refreshment Lady's tea shop. However, a big storm hits the island of Sodor, and Peter Sam is worried. But thankfully, it might have benefited, as they found out that they could do a refreshment stand on wheels. Fun fact, this episode is based on something that happened in real life. And hey, thankfully, this episode's really good. I liked seeing Peter Sam try to help the Refreshment Lady, and the tea shop is actually a really nice coach here. I like it. A new tank engine named Arthur arrives on the island of Sodor, who is prim, proper, and perfect, But Thomas wants to play a little trick on him like the child he is, and now Arthur's spotless record is officially broken. I really enjoy this episode here. Arthur is just such a really fun character that I really wish they used more. And it was kind of cool to see Thomas knock down this prim and proper character, but now he's kind of taking stride in something new. Great episode here, one of my favorites of the season, even if it had that weird blatant moral at the end.
Toby saves the windmill. It's an okay episode. I like the effect when the windmill gets struck by lightning. That's really the biggest standout to me other than the stock footage at the beginning. But still, it's okay.
Donald and Douglas are taking a train to Callan Castle. The two, however, end up getting trapped just before they get to Loch, and spooky things are floating about. As the two were complaining about a monster at Castle Loch before, and now they're afraid they might run into one. This one's really good. I like the spooky atmosphere, and it's pretty eerie. I like it. Glad to see another Donald and Douglas spotlight. Renes has to take school children around the Skarloey Railway, and then he ends up taking all the kids on the ride of their life in the dumbest way possible. So he could have just backed up, but instead he just kept going, and they try to make it look really cool with all these weird angles, but this episode ends up coming off really lame. Definitely a weak one here. Thomas and Percy are making fun of Salty, and Salty is now sad, but then he has to escort Fergus before the storm hits, but a lighthouse goes out and a ship isn't sure where to go, so Fergus and Salty, with their quick thinking, help the ship get back to land. Very torn on this one. First half's pretty lame, but the second half is really cool. It's okay all around. It's winter on the island of Sodor, and Oliver cannot stand the cold, but Toad loves it. But after doing some work, Oliver ends up crashing into a giant snowman, and him and Toad sit there all night in the big cold. Oliver grows to like the cold, and Toad doesn't. This is just a really fun episode here. I liked seeing Toad and Oliver's feelings change, and the visual of Oliver in a snowman's stomach is really funny to me. And just in general, this is a really cozy episode. One of my favorites of the season. Arthur wants to start working at the fishing village. However, Topham gives Thomas the job instead, but then Thomas gets into a crash, and Arthur then begs for it as, well, Thomas hates fish. And this is a fantastic episode right here. With Arthur losing his spotless record, it seems like they knew how to evolve the character and show new sides of him, showing that he's getting a little more into the dirty work, and showing his appreciation for the sea, a place he probably never saw. Amazing episode right here. One of my favorites.
A busy engine, and a fussy one too, said the fisherman.
Duncan is tasked with pulling an elephant statue. However, things don't go as planned, and Duncan ends up going on the ride for his life. Now this is a really fun runaway episode here. These are always really exciting, and thankfully I think this is the most fun Duncan episode in a long time. Man, Season 7 has been really entertaining. I've been having such a good time watching it. More distracting stock footage. A new orange engine named Murdoch arrives on the island of Sodor, who values peace and quiet. Initially, he finds Harvey and Salty really annoying, but after being around some really annoying sheep, he grows to appreciate them. Great introduction here. Murdoch's pretty understandable. You know, sometimes talking goes too much, but he learns to respect the people he has to live with. Very good episode. I like Murdoch. Diesel plays a trick on Fergus to get him out of the quarry. He goes to the cement works and gets scared. It's got some alright atmosphere. I really love the fog and smelter shed, and I like that Diesel was back to being a little more cunning, but overall, it's just okay. Peter Sam has his old funnel in this shot. There's been too much passenger work on the island of Sodor, and Topham tries to get Bulgy back on the road to help with the passengers. Unfortunately, there's some trouble with some chickens, and Bulgy realizes, man, passengers are just as fussy. So, he decides to become a vegetable stand instead. This episode's alright. It was neat to see Bulgy come back, and I liked seeing the roadside of the island, although I feel like Bulgy's a little too nice in this episode and a bit too eager, but still, it was enjoyable.
Wow, Duke returns, albeit through stock footage. Anyways, Harold has to save a horse named Pegasus. This one's alright. I don't mind Harold's little fear of feeling left out and stuff, but overall, not much really sticks out about this one. Still, it's an okay episode. I don't mind it.
Skarloey has been consistently running late, and Topham needs to get to a new station. However, Harold is out of commission, so he takes a hot air balloon. Unfortunately, things don't go Topham's way. It's not the best iteration of this. It's not as good as, say, Topham's Holiday or Lady Hat's Birthday, but still an alright episode of Topham having troubles. It's definitely a pretty episode, at least. It's a beautiful day on the island of Sodor with a Best Dressed Station contest going on. The engines want to play along and get into a Best Dressed Engine contest. Everyone except for Gordon, who's being a big curmudgeon about it. Though there's a banner that accidentally flies into Gordon's face and covers up what he can see. He later ends up being able to join the contest and unintentionally wins, and everyone congratulates him. I enjoyed this one a lot. There's just something so festive and special about watching this episode, and I really liked seeing Gordon be a little like, this is actually kind of fun, but not fully be able to admit it. And in general, this episode's just got really good vibes all around. I like this one a lot, though this shot's really weird.
Enjoying himself, he was bringing the maypole. The farmer's children waved, and Tom...
Did they not have a more recent tracking shot?
A new streamlined engine named Spencer comes to the island of Sodor, and Gordon feels weird about it, as Spencer's a bit of a reflection of who he used to be. He tries to warn him about responsibility and taking coal and water, but Spencer isn't listening to that old geezer. Unfortunately, ends up biting him, and Gordon then has to help him. I really like this episode a lot. Gordon and Spencer are a really fun duo here, and I love seeing that Gordon has grown so much since the beginning of this show. Very great one, my favorite of the season. Starting off with Henry in his old shape. This is just funny at this point. Elizabeth is sent to get Christmas puddings, and Thomas is jealous about it. However, Elizabeth gets into a crash, and Thomas has to save her. This is an alright episode. Honestly, when you pair Elizabeth and Thomas together, they're a bit more fun. I enjoyed their dynamic a little bit in here. Better than Elizabeth's first episode. Though this scene is really weird.
Crosser still. The snow was heavy, but Thomas arrived at every station.
Like, how the heck do you do this? Rusty discovers the old wooden bridge isn't holding up well, and Duncan crosses it in spite of his warnings and nearly crashes. Just another episode of Duncan ignoring Rusty's advice. It functions, but compared to all the other really good episodes we've had this season, this one really just exists.
Good morning, called Harold.
Another sequel episode. Thomas and Bertie get into a race again. However, in the middle of the race, Thomas has to stop participating because he needs to get some medals for the kids' soccer game. Now this is a really good episode right here. It was fun to see Thomas and Bertie race again. It's been such a long time since we've seen it. Their race, for what little of it we got, was really fun. And I also love seeing Thomas's responsibility here and putting his job over racing. This is a really great episode. Heck, it could have been the series finale. Of course it's not, but hey, still worthwhile, and definitely a great finale to Season 7. Wow, I'm impressed on my rewatch of this. I used to think this season was really boring and uninteresting, and I was actually ready to praise Season 6 and then call this the real start of the downfall. But after rewatching Season 6 and that one not being as good as I remembered, this one was actually way better than I remembered. Maybe it was because I watched the UK dub this time. Obviously you can tell by the accent I'm more American, so I watched Brandon's dub normally. But for this video, I was trying to watch all the UK dubs for all the episodes. And hey, maybe that contributed to my enjoyment, but I had a great time with most of Season 7. There definitely were some clunker episodes, but I still think this was a really good season, and it seemed like they made a lot of improvements over season 6, which felt really underwhelming. I'm genuinely really glad to say that. Now, this would be a point where I'm like, hey, maybe I'm excited for season 8. Unfortunately, this is the last season done by a lot of the classic crew. No more Brett Alcroft, no more David Mitton, and while a couple people do stick on, a lot of the biggest players leave. So season 8 is our first entirely hit entertainment season. Oh boy. But hey, who knows? Maybe it's really good. Maybe it'll surprise me. Let's get into it and find out.
Man, we are finally at this point. Season 8, Hit Entertainment's full-on takeover. Now, what's their first episode like? Thomas loses a tuba player after being given a job to get the brass band to Lady Hat's birthday and runs around the island looking for it. And it's boring. It's just 7 minutes of Thomas running around. Yes, I said 7. Honestly, I think this episode would have been okay if it wasn't 7 minutes, because it drags. Yeah, not a good way to start this new era. Harry and Bert make fun of Percy's whistle. In turn, Percy learns how to blow his whistle louder, so I guess the title, Percy's New Whistle, is just a lie, and causes mayhem around the island by blowing his whistle loudly, and needs to learn to use it safely.
This one's just a whole load of nothing. Percy acts like a little baby the whole time watching, and there's just something so mindless about watching this. Nothing really happens in this episode. The biggest highlight, of course, was the moment where Percy got hit by a giant snowball. That part was pretty cool, I'll give him that. Thomas is sent to work at Farquhar Quarry with Mavis, but Diesel is also working there too. Later on, Diesel tells him that steam engines are all gonna get replaced. He believes that for some reason. But with all the diesels breaking down, Thomas decides to help him. The episode's okay. It was nice to see Thomas put aside their differences and help the diesels, but I don't know, it's just kind of standard. There's nothing wrong with it, but it just functions, that's all I'll say.
Wow, they brought back Henry's love of nature. That's cool. What isn't cool is the actual episode. Henry wishes on a tree that he could pull coaches just for a day. However, he has no skills in pulling them. Okay, just gonna throw the previous seasons out of the way. And he doesn't want to pull them anymore, so he tries to find the tree again, only to realize Gordon was sent for repairs. This one's kinda dumb. Not even for the retcon. Henry just, can't pull things pretty calmly. Instead, he's always got to be rough. What? Yeah, one of the really weak episode. Though, it does have probably my favorite model sequence in the whole series, so that makes it a little more interesting.
Tried his best to be gentle, but he shunted the buffet car so hard everything flew into the air.
James gets a new coat of paint and really loves it. He loves it so much that he diddly-daddles and doesn't help Percy at the coal mines. This one's pretty good. I like James quite a bit in this one, and I find the ending really funny. Though I will say, this one feels a bit stretched out, like this could have easily been a 4-minute one. But still, best episode of the season so far. Thomas struggles to cross a difficult bend after Annie and Clarabelle are sent for repairs. It's fine. The action scene at the end's alright, but still, this one's pretty forgettable, and I gotta say, not a fan of Thomas's new warrior personality. It's kind of annoying.
Percy has been consistently running late with his jobs, and he is afraid that Topham might scrap him. We're 8 seasons in. If he was going to do that at any time, he would have done it sooner. This episode's just kind of dumb. Percy's overly worried about literally nothing and hides from everyone instead of just talking to Topham. Also, why is his driver not telling him this? I think that was a bad narrative move right there.
Winter is coming to the island of Sodor, and all the engines are being required to wear their snowplows. Thomas, like usual, wouldn't want to wear his, and Emily has to enforce him, but doesn't realize that it's the word of Topham. This one is actually alright. I don't mind Thomas and Emily's little rivalry here. You got the perfectionist in Emily versus the rule breaker in Thomas. This one's decent. I don't mind it. The engines are throwing a winter surprise party for Thomas. Thomas does not realize the surprise is for him and gets upset at his friends for not telling him. And it isn't until the end he finds out, aw, they thought of him all along. It's a fine episode, I guess, but nothing about it really sticks out to me. I just want to say, it's not like the show is getting bad at the moment, just a little too standard. That's the best way to put it. Emily is consistently late, and after a few mess-ups, Topham takes her to do the Blacklock run. However, she's afraid as she hears scary stories, only to realize they're not true. This one's okay. I don't really mind this one. I find the part where Topham is mad that he's not going to get his breakfast more than Emily's late pretty funny, and I like the Blacklock set. Yeah, this is an okay episode. Man, someone loves this shot from Thomas and the Rumors. It's been reused like 3 times now. Anyways, Thomas and James are told about a fireworks display. James is the one who gets to take it, while Thomas does basic yard work. James eventually breaks down, and the two have to put aside their differences to get the fireworks to the kids. I enjoyed Thomas and James's little rivalry turned having to work together here. I feel like this one could have been shortened a little, admittedly, but this one's pretty fun. I like it quite a bit. One of the best of the season. Gordon is tasked with teaching Percy how to pull coaches. However, it starts to go to Gordon's head as he starts to think he's better than everyone else, only to be knocked down by the world. This one is a lot of fun, honestly. I really like Gordon and Percy's dynamic, and it's quite entertaining seeing Gordon be an ego. It's kind of like Season 5, honestly. If anything, this is the first episode that felt like it needed to be 7 minutes. All the other ones haven't. This is easily my favorite of the season so far. I like it a lot. A railway inspector is coming to the island of Sodor. Thomas and Percy want to win an award for best looking engine, but Gordon, Emily, and James want to take it as well. Thomas and Percy consistently find themselves in dirty jobs, only for them to be clean and come out as the winner. It's okay, I don't mind it. The ending's pretty funny, though.
Oh great, another Edward is Useless episode. Thankfully, though, this episode isn't too bad. It's about him and Spencer getting into a race to see who can get to the Duke and Duchess's summer house first. It's fine. It was nice to see some people actually encourage Edward, but it's just kind of okay. Diesel floats the idea into Gordon's head that steam engines are gonna get scrapped, and Gordon starts hearing some clanking, and he's not sure if he'll work as well. But he starts going slower and realizes the clanking stops. Later, he has to take some kids to the harbor, but he's not going fast enough. And he pumps his pistons hardest so that he can go as fast as he can. Wow, this is a really great episode. Like, genuinely worth watching here. Gordon's character really makes this one. I love his determination as soon as he hears that they might be late. And I love the ending where Topham's like, well, no crap, I wasn't going to scrap you. Still, this one is really entertaining. I love this one. Favorite of the season. Thomas has to pull a circus train, but he doesn't want to share it, and then learns he has to share it. This is such a boring episode with a really forced moral. I like that Toad appeared, but otherwise this episode's really uninteresting. Probably my least favorite overall so far.
A storm hits the island, and all the engines are given tasks to clean up. Thomas has to deliver eggs for Farmer McColl and learns not to rush. It's really boring. I have little to say about it other than that. Moving on.
Yo, we made it to episode 200! Too bad this episode sucks. You'd think by the name this one was about Gordon, but no, it's about Emily. Emily has to take the express for the day while Gordon is out, but she's not patient and rushes every part of the job. Just pretty standard episode here. Really nothing special to celebrate 200. I like the autumn set, that's really cool, but other than that, this one is just nothing. It's whatever. Moving on.
Did they already forget they called an episode Fish back in season 4? Anyways, Thomas has to help Arthur with the fish delivery and learns not to rush. He literally learned that 2 episodes ago. Not the worst episode, but nothing really worth remembering about it. Only real highlight was seeing Arthur again. A storm hits the island, and Emily needs to get supplies for Farmer McColl, but can't really muster the time to say please and thank you. Like, I get this is a kid's show, a really young kid's show at that, but it was never this blatant with its morals early on, and never felt the need to shove them down kids' throats. Now we have this, and one of my least favorites of the season so far. I did like the storm portion at the opening though, that was cool. Wow, another Halloween episode. It's been a little bit. Anyways, Thomas and Emily have to go to the scrapyard for work. However, Ari and Bert decide to trick them, only for a tarp to fall on Emily, and scares for everyone. This one is a lot of fun, and it's just really engaging. The ending with Topham in his pajamas is really funny, and it's just a fun episode to watch. Not much else to say. For a season that's really waning in quality, I'm glad there's still a few good nuggets like this one of the best of the season. Gordon says mean things about Toby, and Toby now thinks he can't do anything, and then proves himself later to Gordon when pushing him up his hill. This one sucks. They've completely ruined Toby. He's now just this warrior guy.
And every little thing everyone says to him really matters to him, even though back then it didn't. This one's bad.
Cars for Donald. He even shunted fruit and vegetable cars for Douglas.
God, I miss the side cast. James is given an important job by Sir Topham Hatt. He doesn't really help other engines in need and is told he must help people and not be selfish. This is an okay episode. I know a lot of people really like this one, but I feel like the moral can be a bit preachy. Not as bad as, say, Emily's Adventure, but still. I do admittedly like seeing Sodor in the snow, though, and James does feel in character in this one, so this one's okay all around. Thomas is given a job to deliver 3 things to specific locations, but he messes up and needs to learn to ask his friends for help sometimes. It's really boring. It takes forever to actually get into the plot where he needs to ask for his friends. Yet like 5 agonizingly long minutes of him misremembering to deliver children, chickens, and sheep places. It does have this Edward moment, but other than that, this one is really boring.
Needs help, moaned Thomas. Ha! Laughed Edward. I'm always helping Gordon up the hill.
It's a hot day on the island of Sodor, and Thomas wants to take children to the beach, but he's got other jobs to do, and he has to learn he can't rush them. Yup, another Thomas learns not to rush episode. Moving on.
We are only 4 years removed from Magic Railroad. You can't use that word. Anyways, Percy is sent to dig a carpet from Brendam Docks, which isn't tied up. But then the wind, or maybe something else, is blowing it away. This one is, not as bad as I thought it would be. I kind of like some of the wind effects. I think Gordon and Percy's interactions are alright. Even though the concept's kind of dumb, I think they made the best of a dumb concept. Not saying this episode's good or anything, but it's okay.
Season 8. Yeah, that one was okay, I guess. It wasn't super awful, admittedly, but it definitely could have been a lot better. I had my problems with Season 6, but man, that season was just more exciting than this one. This one's a lot slower, a lot more about feelings. It's not bad, though. I want to make that clear. There were only a few in here I thought were really bad, but also only a few in here I thought were really good. A lot of the episodes were just fine. I could sit through them, but I really wouldn't choose to normally. It's just kind of a standard season of Thomas with a pretty watered-down tone. It's just hard to watch this one and not realize how much changed from one year to the next. It's just so jarring to sit through. But this was Hit Entertainment's first season, and maybe all these oddities will be fixed up next season. Let's hope so as we jump into Season 9. Wait, hang on, I forgot to mention calling all engines comes in between. I probably forgot because it doesn't really do anything directly towards Season 9, outside of the 7th berth in Tidmouth Shed. Also, the airport, but that won't pop until Season 10. Back to the Season 9 review.
Man, you really can't tell the difference going from one season to the next here. Anyways, Percy is given the task of sending an oil painter around the island to find something special to paint. He doesn't like anything until Percy lashes out on him and he chooses to paint Percy. This is a great episode, honestly. Percy feels perfectly in character in this one, and I really enjoyed the snooty painter, and Percy just lashing out on him was really fun. This is a good way to start the season. I'm impressed. Hope they're all like this.
Thomas wants to learn what's at the end of a rainbow, and after a few mishaps, he learns it's the friends he made all along. Meh, whatever episode. Nothing super horrible, but extremely forgettable and standard. A new engine is introduced to the island of Sodor. Here we have pointless toy character number 3, I mean Molly. She's a shy engine, and she wants all the other engines to like her, so Thomas tries to make her job look special. They fly away, and she fears that she's not special, and then suddenly her job was special. This episode's nothing special. Molly's a really boring character to follow, and overall, I just don't find this episode that appealing. It's whatever.
Gordon starts making rattling noises, and every engine starts making fun of him. He gets really annoyed by this and commands respect. Everyone thinks he's ridiculous, and then he accidentally causes a crash because he was ignorant about respect. Then afterwards, when he's in repairs, Emily and Henry have to do his job and realize his job isn't as easy as they thought it was, and both parties mutually agree on the kind of respect they should get. This is a really good episode, easily the best of the season. I like seeing both sides of it. I also like the part where they're all making fun of Gordon after he crashes into the jam. The best episode of the season, can't recommend it enough. Man, remember when there were like 2 Thomas Needs to Learn Not to Rush episodes in season 1, and then they didn't touch the plot for several seasons? Now we're getting them all the time. I just got nothing to say about Milkshake Muddle. Turns milk into butter. Cool, moving on. Skarloey Railway returns after being absent last season. Just in time too, as we got pointless toy character number 4, Mighty Mac. Gotta say though, for pointless toy character episodes, this was actually pretty good. New controller Mr. Versival asks Mighty Mac to bring some visitors to the mountains. However, the two struggle to go the ways they want to and have to learn to see things clearly. I like it a lot. I think the concept's really fun. I think the character banter is really engaging. And generally, this just feels like an inspired idea. Second favorite of the season. Dowager Hat returns with a prominent role for the first time since Season 5. Thomas has to take her and the Topham family around the island to find a place for her birthday picnic. None of them really work, and then Thomas comes up with an idea to make her birthday special that does work. I liked seeing Dowager again. I liked this part where they were jiggling an Annie and Clarabelle, but other than that, this episode's really boring.
Rusty toots his horn in a new way, but the other narrow-gauge engines can't stand it. But when Rusty is tasked with taking the brass band around the island, he loves how his horn sounds with their music. But then Rusty breaks down because of all the horn honking, and by fusing their sounds together, and then the others find Rusty in the band. It's fine, I guess. There's nothing really wrong with it, but the only thing people remember this one for is Rusty's gender change. A new toy shop is opening on the island of Sodor, and Thomas wants to bring both the children and the toys to the shop. However, Emily and Henry are given those jobs, but both later get into accidents, and Thomas does get to do both of these tasks. Unfortunately, he's not strong enough to do these. Yeah, this is kind of the definition of an extremely standard Thomas episode during this time. Not horrible, just there. I liked seeing a railway series drawing, though.
A dinosaur skeleton is found alongside the Skarloey Railway tracks. Rheneas really wants to take it, but Skarloey is pretty reckless, so Rheneas has to take it on his own, only to realize it's too heavy for him, and has to learn the value of friendship with Skarloey. This one really sucks. Rheneas and Skarloey just act like little toddlers, and the moral is really forced at the end. This is easily the worst episode so far. I do not like it. Might have spoke too soon last time. This one is really bad. New character Neville is introduced, and Ari and Bert are bullying him, only for Thomas to think he's playing friends with them. So a little telephone game goes on with pretty much everyone on the island thinking Neville is horrible, when in reality, he's not. And then he nearly gets into a crash and Thomas saves him. This one's really bad. Everybody is just so out of character and just assumes the worst out of Neville, even just because he was talking to Ari and Bert, only for them to learn, oh, he was just getting bullied by them, now that makes it better. There was a whole direct-to-DVD movie just before this that was all about them getting along with the Diesels and realizing there was some merit to them. So glad it was remembered for the show going forward. This has gotta be the worst episode yet. Well, I guess with the last being so bad, that anything looks better coming after it. A new museum is opening, and Topham didn't tell Toby about it, leading him to believe he is left out of it. So he tries to do a bunch of jobs to impress Topham, only for Topham to tell him he wanted him a part of the museum all along. It's fine. I'm just tired of the whole Toby putting himself down because he doesn't think he's useful kind of plot at this point. I like the ending, though. A carnival's coming to the island of Sodor. Thomas wants to have a part in it, but he has to do a job for Farmer McCall and learn not to rush. This is kind of like that one from last season, Thomas Tries His Best, and it's just as boring. One of the most forgettable episodes yet. Another episode with magic in the title. Alright. So, Skarloey tells a story all about new character Proteus and how he once roamed the land and hoping that you could find his magic lamp. Peter Sam doesn't believe any of this, but then after going on a night trip, things get a little eerie and he's unsure of what's real and what's not. I'm a bit mixed on this one. I love the new lore edition of Proteus, and I generally like the atmosphere and tone of this one. I think that there was a lot of really good model scenery, but I don't think the writing for this one's all that great. I did like seeing Peter Sam's old model again, though. That was nice. Mixed bag overall. It was okay.
I think the statue was of me, boasted Thomas. Really, Thomas? Yawned Percy. That's nice.
A new statue is arriving on the island of Sodor. Nobody initially knows what it is, but after getting a whiff of it at Brendam Docks, Thomas thinks it's of him. He endlessly brags about it, and everybody gets really tired of it. A snowstorm comes along and the ceremony is almost cancelled, but Thomas comes to plow the way to make sure everybody gets to see it. This is a really good episode. Thomas endlessly bragging about something is really relatable to me. I've always had that issue of feeling like I talk about something too much to the point where no one wants to hear it. And this is honestly a really good example of that kind of moral of not taking it too far while understanding what your friend's going for. Really good episode, I like it a lot. One of the best of the season. A new flagpole is needed at Callan Castle. Henry is sent to grab one, but smashes into the flatbed and Salty accidentally runs it over. He has to take some workmen to the forest to chop down some trees. He's afraid that his favorite oak tree is gonna get chopped down, so he stalls for time. And then he finds a solution with an old boat. It's fine. I'm glad they're at least playing into Henry's love of nature again, but they're not really doing much with it. The biggest highlight was seeing Tiger Moth again.
Do. I always know what to do, huffed Emily. Toby laughed.
After seeing a castle, Emily longs to be seen as a queen. However, Toby doesn't believe in her abilities, so she tries to tell Percy what to do, only to learn, wow, she kinda sucks at this, so has to make things right by listening to Toby. This one's actually got some pretty solid moments. I like seeing Toby and Percy hang out again, that's been a while. And Emily's just really entertaining. Honestly, this character shift has been the best thing to happen to Emily. One of the best of the season. I liked it quite a bit. Thomas has a day off. Who's running the branch line then? Anyway, on his day off, he runs into Pointless Toy Character number 8, Dennis. I just realized I forgot to call Neville Pointless Toy Character number 7, but whatever. Anyway, Thomas has to help him because Dennis is lazy. He gets too lazy that he stops working, and then he gets to the work prime proper. It's fine. Nothing really wrong with it. I feel like this plot would have worked better with Daisy, but who else but Thomas? Still, for this season, it's an okay episode.
James gets new trucks and shows them around the island. Thomas then later gets his own, and he needs to try to keep them clean. But they get dirty, and he has to learn that's how trucks function. It's an alright episode. Thomas and James are pretty funny in this one together, and I love the ending with James. Even if the concept's a bit weird, I can overlook it for a fun episode like this.
Duncan is craving adventure, and delivering coal just isn't cutting it, so he finds an exit to an abandoned mine, and then gets stuck until he's able to find the way out. This is another okay episode, I don't mind it. The mine setting's kinda fun, and the idea's okay. Duncan's a little too nice for my liking in this episode, but still, it's an alright one.
Thomas is sent out to the beach, and Diesel tells him that there's a curse around the beach that Thomas finds a little eerie, but he's not fully sure to trust. Later on, Thomas runs into Ben, without Bill, who's afraid to go into a tunnel because Diesel told him something scary was inside. Thomas goes in with a bit of fear, but it turns out nothing was there all along. This isn't actually that bad of an episode, honestly. Diesel was really well characterized. It's got a good moral about not always trusting what you hear. I like it. Oh god, we're on this episode. Skarloey goes up the incline to prove how brave he is, but after his accident, he proves the value of being responsible. What'd they do to Skarloey here? He acts like a little 5-year-old. Did they forget he's like 100-something? We're fully cemented into little baby Skarloey that was already cemented in the old bridge. He's obnoxious and whiny here. Hate this one. Least favorite so far. Yet another Edward is worthless episode. Edward doesn't feel like he can do the work anymore, so he has Thomas help him do it. I just feel sorry for Edward at this point. Like, you're the first Railway Series character, and this is how the show's treating you? I'm just sick of seeing the sad and worthless Edward. The only real highlight for me was seeing Thomas and Edward work together again, but other than that, this one blows.
Thomas and Percy want to see a golden eagle. It's boring, moving on.
James is careless in the snow and just slides around the rails. However, after a big accident, James needs to learn not to rush. And I know I complained a lot about these with Thomas, but this one's actually really good. Edward and James have a really fun dynamic here of him trying to be careful and James being reckless. Who knew a fun character pairing would make a tired plot more interesting? Good episode here. This kid's bedroom has some really weird stuff in it. We got a Magic Railroad poster, a medal from 3 Cheers for Thomas, and an Earl Percy. We got another Halloween episode on our hands, and Thomas is sent to go work with Diesel, which he, of course, doesn't like, as Diesel consistently tries to scare him. So Thomas wants revenge and tries to scare him back by covering himself in flour. This is a really fun episode here. They always go all out with these Halloween episodes. So it's a good thing this is the last one then, whoopee. But no, this one's a blast. The atmosphere is good, I like the flower-covered Thomas. Honestly, everything is great about this one. Also, here's Satan Topham Hat. What a good way to end the season. Love this one. Well, Season 9 was definitely better than Season 8, though it kind of suffered a lot of the same problems. It just didn't do them as bad and had at least a few more fun episode concepts. Honestly, I'd argue the worst episodes are way worse than 8, but I'd consider the best better than 8. There's still a lot of episodes in here I just call kind of so-so, but for the most part, I would say it's a bit of an improvement. Still, I'd probably give it the same score as Season 8 in that it's just okay, but it's a better okay, you know what I mean. But still, I can't stress enough this is an improvement on Season 8. Now all I gotta hope is that Season 10 is an improvement on Season 9. I'm really hoping so too, because Season 10 is 2 episodes longer for some reason. So let's just jump in and see if Season 10 is the best hit season yet, or the worst one. Who knows?
Really? Another episode about Yo, is that Sir Handel? He hasn't appeared since episode 96 pulled out. Welcome back, buddy! Oh yeah, the actual episode's kinda lame. All it is Thomas hiding a flower car from James. The only other highlight besides Sir Handel was that Bulgy returned. And hey, he's in green too, so that's cool. Oh wow, Sir Handel actually gets an episode to himself. I can't be too excited though, because he doesn't even act like Sir Handel. He's now old and wise and has trouble going up hills. It's not bad or anything, just kinda whatever.
It's mainly just carried by seeing Sir Handel again. Whatever episode.
Wouldn't be a new season without a pointless toy character. I'm gonna stop numbering them, by the way, because I think I've been getting it wrong. Anyways, Thomas meets new character Jeremy the Jet Plane. He's the jet plane, alright. Thomas is jealous because he wishes he was as cool as a jet plane, then learns he's special as a steam engine. I just got nothing to say. It's just an uninteresting character introduction. A new carnival is opening on the island, and everybody is helping but Percy, who has to take coal. He tries to initially share a job with someone else, but nobody wants to, and then he learns delivering coal was actually important. This isn't a bad episode, but I've got nothing to say. I do remember as a kid this cool carnival set. I never had it, but it looked really fun. But other than that, the only real highlight within the episode is the Chinese dragon's return. That was cool.
Oh, the indignity, huffed Gordon.
Get ready for that to become Gordon's new catchphrase. Percy is given job of controller for the day. Why Topham gave it to a train and not an actual person, I'll never get. He messes up the instructions Lady Hat gives him and then needs to fix it. It takes forever for him to even mess it up, and then when it is, it's just kind of fixed almost immediately. This episode's just really boring, probably my least favorite so far. Duncan is given the job to deliver a bell, but he loves the way it rings along with his wheels clanging. He is reckless with it and drops it.
You know, the most neat thing about this episode is that Thomas wasn't in it. That was awesome. Oh yeah, for the rest of the episode, it's whatever. It's cool to see an episode exclusively about the narrow gauge at least, but overall it's just a very forgettable episode.
Another winter on the island of Sodor goes by. Thomas wants to pick up a Christmas tree, but after playing jokes on him, Thomas believes the narrow gauge engines won't help him, so he tries to do it on his own. He messes it up and then he has to fix it. It's just boring. I've got nothing else to say.
Toby gets all his jobs done for the day and wants to see some farm animals. However, he's given more jobs and begs everyone for help, but everyone's actually got work to do. Then he realizes Henry was ill and Toby needs to help out. This episode sucks. Toby is like super whiny and insufferable about it. He's such a douche here. I can't stand him. The one thing that was weird is that Henry needs special coal again? I thought that was fixed like 9 seasons ago. Wonder if this is going to become a recurring thing.
It does! Gordon wants to break a speed record, however, accidentally takes Henry's special coal, and he sees how bad Henry is having it, so he decides to swap tenders instead of getting his record. Honestly, this one's really good. I love the bond between Gordon and Henry in this one, and how Gordon was just willing to give up his record in order to help Henry. This is honestly a really good episode, and easily the best of the season so far. I recommend it. Thomas is given an important job to show visitors around the island. Gordon boasts he could do a better job showing them more parts of the island, so Thomas rushes his job and leaves people behind, and then needs to fix it. It's just another Thomas messes up a simple job and then has to fix it episode. It's just as boring as all the others. The only kind of cool thing I can say is that we got to see characters like the refreshment lady and Cyril again. Oh boy, another toy character episode. Here we have Fearless Freddy, an old friend of the Skarloey Railway. However, Skarloey and Rheneas don't seemingly know him, but they do challenge him to a race, and Freddy takes shortcuts because he's too old and not fast as he used to be. And then it results in an accident and he has to fix it. You know what, this one's actually okay. Rheneas and Skarloey are kind of annoying, but I don't mind Freddy, honestly, and I do admittedly like some of the racing sequences. It's alright.
Thomas notices some holes in Toby's shed and he wants to fix it up. However, Toby then gets sad because he liked that the birds could come into his shed, so Thomas has to set things right. This is actually a really good episode, and I really like the fact that Thomas really did try to do the right thing, but didn't realize that it was something special to Toby. This is a really good one all around. Second favorite of the season.
Dang, we're here already? Okay, so the plot is Edward really hates pointless toy character Rocky here, and messes things up until he actually needs his help. Edward just doesn't act like Edward. He's annoyed, he's whiny, he's irrational. Like, it feels like this episode was made for James, but was given to Edward. Honestly, this is the worst one so far. If they're gonna disrespect a character like this, then it's gotta go at the bottom. Thomas races Spencer. He accidentally blows away Topham's hat due to his speed and needs to get it back. This has gotta be the most mindless episode of the show so far. Literally, it's just Thomas chasing Topham's hat from the wind for 7 minutes. Like, doesn't he have a job to do? While it's not as bad as the last one, it's not too far from its quality. Rusty rushes workmen to put up signs faster, but they mess up and he needs to figure out where the Topham family went. It's just boring. I know I keep saying that, but really, nothing interesting has been happening. A shooting star is coming to the island of Sodor. Thomas is sent to bring some workmen to a power station to bring back the lights of Sodor. He goes through areas with clear sky view so he won't miss the shooting star. And then he gets lost. Meh, this one's fine. I do like seeing Sodor at nighttime, and I like Gordon and James's interactions at the beginning, but it's fine. Henry feels embarrassed around Gordon for not being as strong. However, he tries to prove how strong he is by pulling some hay cars. Unfortunately, it doesn't go well. Later, Gordon has some trouble with some cows, and Henry uses his own way to fix it. This is actually a really good episode for Henry and Gordon. I like that Henry does try to prove he's just as capable as Gordon, but accepts it when he knows that he can do things in his own way. Also, the ending's really funny. This one is shockingly really good. I've also noticed Henry's become a bit more mellow since this era started. Obviously, I'm sure it's to soften the show, but still, I like it.
You agree, Gordon? Gordon's face went as red as a signal.
Thomas wants to get involved in a kid's costume contest. Then he derails Toby and has to deliver his toffee. Remember when Thomas had a branch line and we got episodes about that? I missed that. This episode's just the definition of what gimmick car can we sell the kids next. Skarloey is sad because he's scared, worried, and whiny. Yup, it's just like every other Skarloey episode. Though it really sucks in this one's case because there's actually some cool sequences, but it's all just dragged down because of how insufferable of a character Skarloey is to follow nowadays. Definitely one of the weakest of the season. A snowman balloon attaches itself to Thomas's buffer beam, and Thomas thinks it's alive and chasing after him. I'm sorry, what did I just say? This has got to be the dumbest episode of the whole show up to this point. Thomas, for some reason, thinks this snowman balloon is alive, even though he saw it was a balloon earlier. No one else thinks it's alive, it's just him. And this is just so mindless to sit through, seeing Thomas just think this balloon is alive. I remember when this show respected its audience's intelligence. Watching this actively feels like it insults mine. Horrible episode. Least favorite of the whole show so far. Even as a kid, I thought this was dumb.
Gordon broke that speed record he mentioned back in It's Good to Be Gordon. Wow, I'm impressed they remembered that. Emily has to pick up his 2 coaches as he got as an award. However, Diesel feels neglected and takes some. And honestly, this is actually a really fun episode. Diesel and Emily work pretty well off each other. And I like the ending where Diesel just wished he was appreciated as much as Gordon was. This is a really good episode for the season. I liked it a ton. James is given the job to pull a football team that Thomas really wants to, so he tries everything in his power to make James change his mind. Nah. Yeah, I usually love Thomas and James rivalry episodes, but this has gotta be one of the most forgettable they've done yet. I couldn't really think of much else to say. Oh boy, another toy character episode. Here we have Rosie. It's weird, they don't even introduce her like she's a new character. They just act like she's been here the whole time. So the plot is Thomas has to deliver presents to new character Alice, but Rosie won't stop following him, so he tries to take shortcuts only for Rosie to end up taking the mail for him. It just kind of happens, nothing bad, but nothing special. The only important thing about this episode is that Rosie's introduced, but even then, she's not all that interesting.
It's me!
Thomas and James are tasked with delivering coal to the wharf. At the wharf, James meets up with Duncan, who tries to say he's faster and better than James. So to have a contest to see who's better by who can take the most coal trucks to the wharf. However, Duncan uses cheating tactics to do it. Honestly, this one's actually pretty good. I really like James and Duncan's little rivalry here. I'm surprised they haven't done anything like this sooner. It's a lot of fun, and Duncan feels like himself in this one. This is a pretty good one. Not sure how I feel about this James model, though. Ew.
I'm tired.
Rheneas wants to help Skarloey deliver some coal cars after all the work he's been given. However, the coal cars are way too heavy with his main load, so he hides them and saves them for later, only to lose them and not be sure where they are until Peter Sam finds them. Meh, I'm glad Rheneas is a little more in character, or at least more than usual, I should say. He actually wants to help Skarloey, but I've just got nothing to say about it. It's so run-of-the-mill. Salty tells a story about buried treasure, and Thomas wants to find it. He takes all the clues and discovers where it is. This one is actually decent. I wouldn't call it good or anything, but the varied locations and Salty having a decent role in it make me like this one a little more than I admittedly should. Though then again, I always like me a good pirate story, so maybe there's some bias there. Edward is chosen to be on the poster that James really wants to, so James tries to prove he's just as good as Edward, however has to learn that his way is better than just copying Edward. This is a really good episode for James, honestly. I like the fact that he doesn't just see Edward as useless, but wants to prove he can be just as good as him, but needs to learn it's something he earns and not wants. Honestly, it lives up to the title. It's the second best of the season. Recommend it a lot. So we end off with Thomas and Skarloey's big day out. Thomas brings Skarloey around the standard gauge rails to go to the repairs yard, but he tries to show him the sights to make him happy. This one's okay. It's kind of an episode carried by its idea alone, and that makes it a little charming, but Skarloey is pretty annoying in this episode. It was nice to see his old model at least, so it's alright.
Yup. Season 10 was definitely another season of Thomas. This is definitely the weakest of Hit Entertainment's run so far. It just feels really dragged out, especially getting to the end of this. And while I have been very negative, you might be surprised to know I still would call this season okay. I think that the good episodes were pretty good, the bad episodes were really bad, but a lot of it was just their episodes. Like, if it's on, I guess it's good background noise for, I don't know, when I'm working on a video or something. But it's just more of the hit run of Thomas, and it feels like it combines all the worst parts of the last 2 seasons and puts them into one season. I still would say this season's watchable, but I'm hoping next season is at least a lot more than watchable. Season 11, here I come. Let's hope for a big improvement.
Oh wow, there's actually a visual difference this time. There's this weird yellow hue. Might be because this is the first season in 1080p, but I can't fully tell you. Anyway, Thomas is given the task of taking a storyteller around the island so that she can write a story. However, has to help his friends after they're in trouble, and then learns that she wrote a story all about him. This is actually a really good one. It shows Thomas's progression over the years, and it's nice to see Thomas genuinely act like Thomas in this episode. It's not one of the best episodes of all time, but a pretty good start to the season. Another toy character, here we have Whiff the Garbage Engine. He has to help Emily push around trash, but Emily doesn't want to be seen with him. It isn't until Spencer is blocked by some trash that she should have been collecting that she realizes he needs his help. That, honestly, I really like this one. It teaches a really good moral about not judging others just by their appearances, and considering how selfish Emily's been these past few seasons, it fits perfectly with how she's been characterized. I like this one. It's not as good as the last, but still pretty good. Spencer returns to the island of Sodor. He is boastful, and Thomas finds it annoying, so he tries to prove he can be just as good as Spencer, only to realize he's good being Thomas. It's a standard moral, but I actually enjoy the way it's portrayed a lot. Thomas's more rambunctious side comes out as he rivals against Spencer. And the ending with him having to bring the dupe to the airport was really entertaining, especially when he was making fun of Spencer. Probably my favorite of the season so far. I swear we've already had an episode called this, but you know what? This one's pretty good, so I won't even complain too much. So, James is given the task of collecting the mayor of Sodor to bring to the festival, and he initially ignores helping Thomas, Percy, and James with their jobs. However, after realizing they won't be able to go to the carnival because they're taking too long, he decides to assist them and realizes the importance of being useful. Just another really good one. I like that James comes to the realization of his own, and it still feels like James. He wants people to see him for how cool he actually is. One of the best of the season. I really liked it a lot. Bill and Ben bring in a new toy truck called Hector. Thomas has to fill it up so that James and Edward can pull their trains. However, Hector is proving to be a lot of trouble, and all the tactics initially fail. Thomas stands his ground and hits him, only to realize Hector is kinda sad and doesn't want to be filled with coal because he doesn't know what it's like. But Thomas shows him there's nothing to be afraid of. What the heck is with Season 11? Why have there been so many good episodes? This is probably my favorite of the season. I really like Hector as a character. I like the fear that goes into him. And I like that Thomas stands up for himself. Not even just because Hector's bothering him, but because he's been bothering his friends and stalling his job. One of the best episodes of the whole season. I'm shocked how good Season 11 has been. Gordon is tasked with taking an engineer to a signal box so he can fix all the signals on the island. However, he messes up and needs to fix it with the help of Donald and Douglas. This is a pretty good episode. I like that Gordon feels that sense of ego he usually does, and then gets humiliated when he realized who he was taking wasn't the mechanic. It was also nice to see Donald and Douglas again. This was a good one, not one of Gordon's all-time bests, but still good. I wonder when this Season 11 streak's gonna end. Percy thinks he saw a spaceship, and Thomas goes around the island trying to see what he found, only to find out it's Jeremy, and asks Gordon to help him deliver the mail. Meh, pretty average episode. Well, season had to have one eventually. I'll always say I think this is visually the most entertaining episode. Like, I like the way the fog and the night look, but overall, it's pretty average. Hope it was a fluke. Henry believes his trucks are lucky, so tries everything in his power to find them after he loses them. However, he needs to learn that he can make his own luck. Meh, just pretty nothing. Henry is pretty annoying, complaining about his lucky trucks. It's just one of the most forgettable yet. Thomas is given the job of delivering a light bulb to a lighthouse. However, he sees his friends getting ready for the carnival and wants to go, but then needs to learn to not rush again. It's fine, I guess, but there's really little to say about it. All I could think of was, oh, there's the Chinese dragon again, and when did Cyril become a lighthouse keeper? Other than that, it's just a standard episode. At the wharf, Thomas is given a job, and then he makes Rheneas jump after blowing his whistle, and the rest of the episode is just dedicated to him trying to prank everybody on the wharf, and it's just so mindless. It's just them causing a bunch of reckless crashes and, not doing what trains should be doing. Like, it's such a mindless episode, easily the worst one so far. Thomas has to collect some items for the magician to use at his performance, but he messes it up and needs to fix it. Just another standard episode with nothing to say. All I can say is the ending is weird, where the magician uses magic on Thomas? Is Magic Railroad canon? Man, Season 11, you started so well. Thomas is given the task of delivering a sailboat to the mayor. However, he does not let the mast get lowered and needs to learn to not rush. Pretty stock episode. Oh god, we're here already. Here we have another toy character, Silly Billy. And if you know me, he's my least favorite character in the whole franchise, especially with his favorite catchphrase,
Stop telling me what to do. You are a very bossy engine.
He says it like 5 times in this whole episode.
What can I say about Billy that hasn't already been said? He's a very insufferable character, and he brings this whole episode down. Definitely one of my least favorites of the season. Thankfully, Billy never became a recurring character after this, though, as soon as this episode aired, he never popped up in the show again.
Finally, an episode not about Thomas. Edward is tasked with delivering the mail while Percy's at the works. However, he's unsure of the order he should be delivering them in and has to figure it out. Meh, it's fine. I at least like the idea of Edward having that struggle, that everybody sees him as this perfect role model, that when he doesn't know how to do something, it feels, well, weird. But it's not all that interesting, and I feel like they don't go far enough with the concept. Overall, though, it is fine. It's one of the better of the season, unfortunately. To wait for a ship arriving with a delivery, Thomas and Percy play hide and seek. Remember when this show was about trains? I got nothing to say about it, it's just them playing hide and seek. I like that Cranky had a semi-prominent role, but overall, this episode's lame. It doesn't even feel like a Thomas episode. Toby is given the task of picking up Alicia Body from the airport and, yet again, is worried he's gonna make mistakes and is afraid he's not as good as he could be. Can they just not think of anything else to do with Toby? This one's horrible. All it is Toby being worried and getting into mistakes. I really can't stand it. One of the worst yet. Thomas is designated to pick up Topham's new car. However, Gordon wants to prove he's faster, so they have a race to see who can get to the carnival first. But then Thomas loses the car as he was impatient, and a runaway ensues. It has been such a long time since there's been a runaway episode in retrospect, but honestly, this one's a lot of fun. It isn't mind-blowing, but it kept me interested the whole time, and seeing the ways they made the runaway happen was entertaining. I liked it.
Shot into the air. Oh no! Cried Arthur.
Man, poor Arthur. I forgave this last time, but really, again, another episode title being reused twice in the same season. Anyway, Thomas has to take a children's choir to a concert, but doesn't bother getting checked up, so doesn't work properly and needs to learn to wait. Cool. Like every Thomas episode now. Annie and Clarabelle spoke in this one, and that's all I took away from it. So, Thomas is being bullied by Diesel, Ari, and Bert because they keep calling him Stinky. Then he's given a job to deliver stinky cheese. What do I have to say about it? My brain was completely on autopilot. It's like Diesel, Ari, and Bert are the equivalent of 3rd grade bullies at this point. They're lame, and Thomas pulling a gimmicky item. The only interesting thing about it is they actually did a CGI test with this one, which actually stayed pretty close to the model era if you could look at this. It's kind of interesting. Too bad the actual episode kind of sucks. Wow, it's taken me now to realize Percy has hardly done anything all season. So Percy is tasked with delivering Dowager Hat's luggage to the airport, but puts it off at the last minute. Yeah, this is sure an episode that exists. So season 11 ends with 6 narrow gauge themed episodes in a row. Great. So here we have Skarloey storms through. Mr. Percival orders Peter, Sam, Rheneas, and Skarloey to get some sheep. However, it's thundering out and Skarloey's afraid of the thunder. Yup, it's just as you expect. Skarloey's afraid and needs to prove he's more brave. Just an average bad Skarloey episode, nothing else to say. New toy character Madge has to take Duncan to the transfer yards, but tries to have fun like he would, and ends up getting in trouble. This one's actually a lot of fun. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Duncan and the new character Madge are a very entertaining pair, and I liked this one a lot. I actually recommend it.
And in the bushes, she even sprayed a policeman. Sorry.
Duncan is tired of pulling straw all day, so takes on the jobs of other narrow gauge characters. All I can say is, this episode sure does exist.
Oh sweet, another Madge episode. She has to look over Skarloey and Rheneas and make sure they're clean for a festival. However, she then gets dirty, and they all need to learn to get cleaned up. This is a really sweet episode. Madge is a fun character. I like her dynamic with Skarloey and Rheneas, even if I don't like their new characterizations. Good episode all around.
Mr. Percival is off at a meeting and puts Sir Handel in charge of setting up a train. It's very similar to the Green Controller, but instead of Percy messing up the jobs, Sir Handel just doesn't give anyone jobs. It's boring, I've got nothing else to say. We end off Season 11 with an episode about Fearless Freddy of all characters. He is looking for a bell for Mr. Percival's bike. Yup, add it to the pile of episodes that exist.
Season 11. This was an interesting season. With how good this one started, I was really shocked. But the further it went along, it kind of drove into the same hit entertainment stuff as usual. And again, I know I was a bit negative on this one, but I'll admit, I didn't have as bad of a time with it as I did Season 10, and honestly Season 8 as well. I'd say this is closer to Season 9 in quality. Which one's better? I think 11 might be a little more consistent, but 9's highs are probably better. But you could be the deciding factor of that. But, like usual for Hit, it's another okay season. Man, 4 of these in a row. Yikes. But we are reaching an end point. Season 12, our last model season. Oh boy, we're at the end now. And funny enough, I actually don't remember this one as much from childhood. Season 11 was the last season I was really regularly keeping up with, and then the release of The Great Discovery, which came out after this film, with the characters Stanley and Great Waterton that are going to be in next season. I just kind of fell out of Thomas. I was starting to grow into Phineas and Ferb, which then became my favorite show for a little while, and then I'd get into the other shows on Disney, Nick, and Cartoon Network, and I kind of just lost interest in stuff airing on PBS. So, for the most part, nostalgia will not be playing much of a factor from this point on, really. Obviously, I've seen all the seasons coming up. I'm just making it clear I have pretty much no nostalgia connection to just about any season afterwards, but enough stalling. Let's go into Season 12 and see if it's a really good swan song for the model era or not.
So a photographer... Oh. Ew. Yeah, I should have mentioned this, but this season's a model CGI hybrid. Looks really bad, as you can tell. So the story of this one is a photographer comes to the island to take a picture of the main 8 and Diesel for some reason for a billboard. Diesel photobombs Thomas, and Thomas tries to take another picture without Diesel. It's just nothing. It feels like nothing happened this whole episode, and the few locations in this one makes this one feel so limiting. Like, Thomas really can't have basic speaking skills and just say, "Oh, Diesel blocked me," but whatever, it's just uninteresting. Is it just me, or do Edward's eyes make him look like he's on something? Anyway, the episode is about Edward delivering a water wheel. He wants attention for it, so takes the worst path, and then hijinks ensue. I just got nothing to say. It's more of what you usually expect. I'm only putting it over the last episode because it has my favorite frame of the show. Oh, also, look it! Arthur and Oliver are back. That's cool.
Rosie? Rosie? We're getting an episode about Rosie? She doesn't want to be Emily's back engine while pulling a circus train, so the thing breaks in half and she messes up the job, like usual. Percy could have had this episode and literally nothing would be different. Great. I'm tired of these kind of episodes. Stepney popped up. That's cool, I guess. Bad episode overall.
Oh my god, we're on the halfway point of the whole show. So, Peter Sam finds a statue of Proteus and wants to bring it to Miss Marvel's storytelling event. He doesn't want anyone else to see it until he brings it there. He messes up a job because the statue's too heavy for him, and then he relies on his friends. It feels like I'm saying that description for every episode, but that's because it applies to too many of them. Pretty average overall. It's cool that it ties in with a Season 9 episode, but they don't really do anything with it tying in, so it's hard to really say it should get much credit for it. I'll also say it's kind of distracting how often they say the word Miss Marvel, because all I think of is the Marvel character. It's unfortunately probably the best so far. Let that sink in. The Wishing Tree returns. Wow, that's 2 callbacks in a row. Anyway, after it's struck by lightning, Henry has to take some woodmen to take care of it. However, he thinks they're gonna tear it down, so wastes several minutes on end collecting rolling stock to block the path, only to realize they were gonna save it. This is such a boring episode. Literally nothing happens in it, and the resolution is solved so quickly. Going at the bottom of the list. Another toy character episode. Here's Hank. He's from America. Thomas feels embarrassed around him because he wants to prove Sodor engines are better, so tries to take on heavy loads that Hank would be famously known for. And then needs to learn he needs to ask for help. Meh. Hank isn't honestly that bad of a character, but this episode's just so there. Nothing's really wrong with it, it's just not that interesting. Meaning it's one of the better of the season. Yay.
Toby isn't given a special job by Topham, so he believes it's because all the other engines have done special stuff with flashbacks to older episodes. Huh, it's weird how much continuity there is in this season. So Toby tries to find something special. Yup, another Toby episode about how unimportant and lame Toby is, but no, he has to be reassured how special he is. Another bad one.
A storm hits the island of Sodor like it does in every hit season, and Emily is one of the only few very functioning engines. It gives her a big head after Topham calls her Excellent Emily, and it makes her a little egotistical and not listen to others. You'd probably think I don't like this episode because Emily's being ignorant, but honestly, considering how egotistical the characters become in this later model era, this is actually very fitting, and honestly, this might be my favorite episode of the season. Had a lot of good moments to it. I especially liked the scene where Emily was sinking in the mud. Honestly, who knew Emily would be getting all the good episodes? Also, Duck came back, so that's always a bonus. Favorite of the season so far. Dang, why does Freddy keep getting so much focus? He wants to set up a surprise party for toy character Cullen. Yup, this is sure an episode. That's all I gotta say. Thomas is sent to pick up a firefighter because he's winning an award. However, he sees things alongside the tracks and thinks he's helping others. However, he's actually not helping and just causing more trouble. This one's just annoying. Thomas thinking he's being better and actually trying to help, instead causing more harm. And it's also just exhausting to see. This is probably my least favorite episode so far. It was cool seeing Duck, Donald, and Douglas again, but that can only do so much. Also, this ending shot makes it look like Thomas's face is falling off.
Duncan is upset he won't be able to take Mr. Percival's kids out for their birthday. Instead, they're getting taken out by a hot air balloon. So Duncan tries to sabotage the hot air balloon. This is just kind of a dumb episode. Why is it already floating? This is just kind of wild. I mean, I guess it's cool to see the red balloon again, but this is stupid.
To do his best, and to show the other engines he knows best, too.
Okay, that's a pretty funny line. So, we're on episode 300. How do they celebrate the occasion? James has to take a long line of trucks to Great Waterton. However, the lighting away is getting dangerous, and James is going with Hector, who's trying to give him advice, but James doesn't want to take advice from a truck. Considering last season, James didn't really seem to like Hector, I'm shocked they actually played into continuity. Now that I think about it, 12's doing that a lot, but this one's honestly really entertaining. I liked it quite a bit.
Hector and James make for a really fun duo. I love the snow setting, and I love that James has to get over his prejudice with trucks. Wow, a good season 12 episode. Who would have guessed? Definitely my favorite of the season.
Last toy character of the season. Here's Flora. Yup, she exists. So, Thomas thinks that Toby would be upset if he saw there was another steam tram on the island. For 7 agonizingly long minutes, hides Flora from Toby. It's just boring. That's all I gotta say about it. I know I'm saying that a lot, but nothing's happening anymore.
Thomas and Diesel have a backwards race and keep causing crashes. Ugh, this episode is so dumb. Like, do Thomas and Diesel not hear or feel the people they're crashing into? Without a doubt, my least favorite of the whole season so far. I hate this one.
Gordon wants to beat Stanley to gain the Great Waterton, so takes a shortcut but gets lost. It's okay. It was cool seeing Duck, Oliver, and Toad again, but other than that, you know, it's fine. It's an okay story. Probably the second best of the season. Thomas wants to find a man in the hills for Mr. Percival's birthday. Legit, nothing interesting happened in this whole episode. Moving on. Thomas's brakes aren't working right. So instead of using common sense and getting them fixed, he keeps trying to do a job, but oh no, messes it up. This is like that episode from last season, Thomas in Trouble, the season 11 version. Nothing else I gotta say, just the standard Thomas messes up a basic job because of a fault with him. Moving on.
Percy has to take Lady Hat around the island to stall for a surprise. However, when she doesn't want to leave, Percy has to be assertive with her. Yup, this one exists. It was cool seeing the pack again, but overall, at least Percy wasn't as annoying as he usually is in these seasons, I guess.
Scarloey wants to pull a puppet show train, and he fights over it with Rheneas, and then, lo and behold, messes it up, and Rheneas needs to help him fix it. This episode is really annoying. This is like 2 5-year-olds fighting over a toy for 7 minutes annoying. Like, bottom of the list. I cannot stand this episode. We're at the end of the model era now. How are they gonna close off 24 years of models? Thomas is given a job Percy really wants and hides it because he knows Percy will get sad. Percy finds out and gets sad, and Thomas later makes it up to him. Thomas and Percy have the most artificial friendship nowadays. Remember when these two used to be asses to each other? This episode's just really annoying. The two just can't have anything bad happen. They're so sappy and pure. Going right above the last one, but it's still a pretty bad episode.
Season 12 sucked. You know, I was on Season 11 really thinking to myself, man, the show really hasn't gotten that bad yet in those previous seasons. But not here. This season, was so tough to sit through. The writing just took the biggest hit. I don't know what happened, but every character is just written to be the dumb one this year, and just every episode came off as mindless. There was one episode I liked all season. The other 19 or fine at best, I suppose, and just straight up unbearable at worst. What a crap end to the model era. Seriously, the model series deserved to end on a better note. Let's just pretend this season doesn't exist and that Great Discovery ended it, and then bam, better ending. But we gotta move on. We are finally at the switch to CGI. Hero of the Rails came out in between this and the next season, and it was an alright special, you know. Had some of the Sharon Miller isms, but it's better than some of the other movies. Anyways, it introduces the character Hero, Victor, and Kevin, so they're gonna play a role, not to mention the Steamworks, which just pops up out of nowhere. So, yeah, let's jump into our first CGI season and see if it's an improvement on this, or if somehow it's gonna be worse. Here's the updated season ranking. Alright. Yep, we're cutting off here. This time I think it's a little more fitting to stop at the end of the model era. You could give or take with that, but whatever. So 7 through 12, 7 was actually better than I expected it to be on rewatch. 8 through 11, sure, are okay seasons. I didn't hate them, they were watchable. 12 was a dumpster fire, though. I hated that one, as you could tell by the review. But the worst part is, it's only going to get worse from here. So join us next time when we get to the first CGI seasons. Make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss that. And until part 3, I'll see you all next time.